The struggle between the African National Congress and its leftist allies continues amid efforts to reconfigure this historic relationship between the South African Communist Party, COSATU, and the ANC. Last week, the SACP launched a blistering attack on the ANC's top 6 Treasurer General, Paul Mashatile, after a leaked audio recording in which he can be heard saying the SACP must choose whether it is part of the alliance or the opposition. And he apparently snubbed the SACP councillors in governing the party's campaign, or in the governing party's campaign in the Free State. For more on this, I'm joined by the SACP's Free State Second Deputy Provincial Secretary, Mojalefa Simango. Mr. Simango, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, you have taken the lead in Metsemaholo. You actually stood for ward elections and for full municipal elections in that place. The councillors that Mr. Mashatile is said to have snubbed, are they the Metsemaholo councillors or is it the SACP in general?
In our view, it is both. He's speaking about the employees of the SACP in the municipality, which are a reflection of the SACP in the province. In our view, he represents both.
Mm-hmm. Now, when he came to the province, he is apparently saying that you must choose. You can't be both. You can't be in the alliance and you can't contest elections on your own. Now, this is, of course, something that the SACP has grappled with for a very long time. Mr. Paul Mashatile is expressing a view that's gaining currency in the ANC. How does it stand with you trying to renegotiate what kind of relationship you're going to have in this historic alliance when there's also members in your own group that's agitating for you to actually go toe-to-toe with the ANC at the polls?
Yeah, I think, Karima, let's start to welcome the efforts currently that are underway by the leadership of the SACP nationally and also the ANC National Executive Committee in mending relations in our province. What I must say to you is that Free State has serious political problems, particularly within the alliance, which in general will have a direct implications or impact in the society at large. We welcome that. But we deem these views of the ANC Treasurer General as shocking and regrettable on the basis of these efforts that are taking place. There is indeed a growing irritation in the province, particularly against the SACP independence, against wrong things in particular in our own province. You will know the state of governance in the province, both provincial and local government, including the state entities, which, as I'm listening to SARS, we are experiencing them. And what we are not speaking about, it is the successful work and the positive work in Metsemaholo. Is the only municipality that workers can go home with trust that their salaries will come at the end of the day. ESCOM does not get owed by Metsemaholo rent, water. There is stability. But if a leader such as Comrade Mashatile, we expect him to harness the developments and positive things that are taking place in the province. Yes, indeed. Insofar as things that are happening in the province, there can be interventions like they are taking place, but the sustainable solution can be how the alliance functions. The alliance can't continue to function the way it used to function. So there's growing irritations against the Communist Party, particularly its leaders and itself as an organization, coming from the ranks of our own in the movement. They are really worrying us.
Peter?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not that familiar with the story, but it sounds like the old alliance story repeating itself. The constant friction between the alliance partners. COSATU is, thinking about striking what COSATU members are before the election. Just talk to me a little bit about the Free State at the moment. I mean, politically, how, is it still Ace Magashula territory? I mean, is he comfortable? Does he control it? Is he safe there? What does the SACP do? What role does the SACP play in the Free State with regards to him and his power base there?
Ours has never been a personal politicking in the province. Ours has been the confrontation of things that affect our people negatively and affect our workers. Because as Karima in your previous interview the immediate implication of corruption is our people and workers in particular. And as the Communist Party, we rely on the kindness of our people and our workers. So anything that affects them, the Communist Party cannot continue to massage political alliance relations while our communities and workers on the other side are undergoing very painful conditions. So it's not about Mashatile as an individual, but it's about the politics in the province where the alliance is denied an opportunity to introspect itself, but most importantly, to lead the people of our province.
But the point of Mr. Mashatile cannot be dismissed simply because you don't want to talk about individuals. He's governed that province for 20 years, both as the ANC provincial leader as well as the Premier. The current Premier who's in his position is the former MEC for cooperative governance. And if you look at the problems, then you can actually argue that she is his proxy because his daughter, for example, in today's newspaper, it is said is involved in a scandal where RDP houses were supposed to be built and people are moving into the houses, there's no doors, there's no windows and so on. So the link to Mr. Mashatile is actually very direct. We've had other instances in the same way, and many thought that the selection of the former MEC for Cocta as the new Premier of the province actually allows Mr. Mashatile exactly what Peter was talking about, which is ruling through a proxy.
No, definitely, Karima, you are not far from the truth. And that is why when we contested my Medzimaholo, Comrade Mashatile was the provincial chairperson of the ANC, and even at that particular point in time, we were directed to confront wrong things. So,
wrong things that he's done under his leadership?
Under his leadership, that things have happened that were fundamentally wrong. We have confronted them. That is why I'm saying, let's not be personal, but under his leadership or under his epoch of leadership, many wrong things have happened. And what
Give us examples.
Look, examples, it is currently what is happening in the province, where municipalities, all of them have collapsed, where the provincial government have collapsed. You will know, technically speaking, it was we are in the term that he has started as the Premier, and these things have been happening. So it's not necessarily about him, but under his legacy, yes, we appreciated that very wrong things have happened, and Medzimaholo was among other of the examples that have happened. Remember, we went to Medzimaholo after a rampage of dismissal of more than 300 workers, which is the Communist Party, COSATU, and the rest. We did not agree with that during that moment. And yes, indeed, there have been internal engagement of the alliance, but there has not been a solution on this.
So if these discussions have been, happening at national level, I know that when President Zuma was still president, he was furious that the SACP was actually going to contest under its own banner. There was attempts to get you to not do it, but you pushed ahead, and in a campaign that had virtually no money, in 3 months' time, you managed to actually get quite a lot of gains. So do you think that Mr. Mashatile is afraid that you might actually pose a counterbalance to the kind of patronage networks that have been continuing in the Free State, especially if we have a proxy Premier that still kind of allows Mr. Mashatile to rule from the grave from Letuli House?
That is why we don't see the views of the Treasurer General of the ANC as innocent. We see them as part of an ongoing attack against the Communist Party independence in the province, against wrong things. And we really condemn that, and we cannot afford that. We expect the national leadership to take a positive contribution in helping things, because when you help the alliance in the province to find itself, you technically help the communities and struggling workers of our own province. So we see that as part of that, and that is why we come very strong and we condemn it, and we are not going to tolerate it any longer.
So I presume when he said this, this is the voice recording, so I mean he wasn't, presumably this wasn't meant to be said in public.
Yes.
Somebody probably recorded it on their telephone. And reading what he said, I mean, he's got to regret that this ever came out. The fact that he said it, though, is, indisputable. And I can only presume that he was trying to conjure some sort of sense of unity between the ANC in the area that the ANC people he was talking to, rather than the alliance in general kind of thing. Because I presume that the ANC, like it is all over the country, in the group that he was talking to in Sasolburg, were also split. So, I mean, if you're talking to a divided
unity?
group, find somebody else out there to blame, and everybody in your group can agree that, yes, the Communist Party.
Definitely.
Do you accept that?
Definitely. Many blames have been directed, like I started initially, many blames are directed to the SACP in Metsimaholo. But what people are not telling, it is the positiveness that is happening between the SACP and coalition partners, including what the ANC is part of it. And that is...
What have you achieved in Metsimaholo?
We have achieved a number of things. Like I've indicated, we are the only municipality that does not owe ESCOM in the whole province.
Wow.
That does not owe rent water in the whole province. There have been efforts to bring stability in the municipality. Like I indicated, workers have confidence in terms of what they are doing. Yes, there are challenges that are continuing to take place. For instance, we are currently in the process, after many efforts to collapse the municipality, the Council of Metsimaholo has approved the process of appointing senior management because there was a clear concerted effort to collapse the municipality. But under the leadership of the coalition, which has the party, which has the ANC and other organization, your MCA, we are able to survive because it is out of those contradictions that are taking place among ourselves, because that is one thing that many people do not want to appreciate. And that is why we say in the Free State, there is this growing irritation when the Communist Party raise things that many of those who are in government do not want them do not want to hear them. And it denies all of us to then critically look into how do we take the province forward.
You have just explained what is possible if the South African Communist Party is independently at the polls. This has been a question in your organization for a very long time. Do you believe that it is time for the SACP to replicate what it did in Metsimaholo nationally, as a final question?
Look, those discussions are quite important, but our lessons in Metsimaholo are quite positive. Our lessons in Metsimaholo are quite positive precisely because we are at the center of real things when things are happening. And as we move towards elections to say we're going to vote for the ANC, but the reality is that you need a different voice. And the Communist
Party, a different ANC.
A different voice. Remember, the interrelationship between the ANC and the Communist Party is historical. And that is why part of our rejection about what Comrade Mashatile says, he forgets that these councillors of the SACP are members of the African National Congress. And that is where it pains us, because he's directly at the same time attacking the leaders, or in fact the members of the African National Congress, and we can't afford that. For instance, the day that he has issued these insults, the mayor of Metsimaholo, who is a member of the ANC in her own right, was in the campaign trail in a different platform. And you can't expect leaders of the SACP to run behind leaders of any organization, because the senior leader of the ANC in the province that we must marshal behind, that is not the communist. In fact, our campaign message in the province is that we are going to those struggling communities and will not go to where there will be an excitement and happiness, where people are crying on service delivery issues, water and electricity in Maluta Pofung, in Dihlabeng, in Jagasfontein, you name them. And where workers are being consistently, when they raise their views, they are being subjected to victimization. The Communist Party will be found there. That is where we will go and say, over and above what the parasitic patronage network in the Free State is doing, it is important to save the revolution that is headed by the ANC and the Communist Party, and not fall into the traps of individuals who continue to want to enrich themselves wrongly and all that.
Thank you very much for your participation. Very interesting developments there in the Free State that could very well affect the national political outlook, and particularly the way in which the ANC functions with its leftist SACP partner. After the break, we look at the latest revelations in the great VBS bank heist, as newly leaked information implicates former ANC Youth League Limpopo leader in dodgy dealings. Don't go away.